Yeah, I got the plan, I got the fan, I got the keys, I get to work. I am the man, you know what I'm saying, so leave it to me, cause I get it first. Yeah, woo, I've been going all day, man. Same plan, can't change that. Till I'm right around, whole squad sitting back, chilling in the Maybach. Yeah, only as deep as your roots go. I don't do corny like fructose. If you got the drummer, that's word of my mama, I'll cover you up like a tombstone. I was last in my past, now you see I'm the one. They say work, never work, if you work and it's fun. We on a winning team, on top where you find us. We can do anything, non-stop till our time's up. We on a winning team, on top where you find us. We can do anything, non-stop till our time's up. We can do, ayy, we coming up from the dirt, ayy. They trying to get us to fall, ayy. I don't even gotta flex now, boy. It's only win by the fault, ayy. Taking off with the ring, ain't nothing left, man. We the kings, ran with the team, ran with the dream, ran with the one fan in the seats. Ayy, I pay my dues, check the receipt. Looking at you, you already peaked. Way back then. You can't follow with my tracks, man. Last in my past, now you see I'm the one. They say work, never work, if you work and it's fun. We on the winning team, on top where you find us. We can do anything, non-stop till our time's up. We on the winning team, on top where you find us. We can do anything, non-stop till our time's up. We on the winning team, on top where you find us. We can do anything.
Coming up to the line, being chased, and it was Braden Johnson. Unbelievable finish. It was 1/1000th of a second between them.
Green flag in the air. We are racing in the 2020 24 Hours of Daytona.
They go door to door for the feature race lead here on the last lap of the race. Side by side for the race lead in the final corner at Homestead.
Down the back straightaway, 3 wide again for the race lead. This is unbelievable stuff here tonight.
Loma is going to have to be very deep on the brakes, and he is very deep on the brakes. It's side by side through the corner. This is for the win.
It'll be side by side. Davies low, Ottinger high. To the very inside is Garrett low. 4 wide at the stripe. For all his work here on this outside line, neck and neck. Who's going to back out? Does anyone back out? Verstappen starts to squeeze on the inside, and now he'll try and straight line it. Goes under the apron, drag race to the line. It's so close to call.
Now awaits a series first, a track with no remorse, and one with history made and history to be made tonight. Welcome, sim racing fans, to live coverage of the 4th race of the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series Season 3 campaign from the road course at the World Center Racing in the Daytona International Speedway. Welcome you to the broadcast here on the KBueno Racing Network, where alongside Charlie Baier in the booth, my name is Kenneth Bueno. Charlie, there is no question Daytona has held historic races over its entire length of history, but none as unique as this NASCAR road course, which brings a new perspective from the last time you visited a road course in the Bundren Lawn Care Series, and a challenge lying at the feet of these drivers tonight.
Yeah, this road course is a whole nother monster to attack. It's way different than really any other road course that we've been to in the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series, and you're going to start to notice that this track is really hard on equipment and really hard on driver skill, and we're going to see that really shine throughout the night.
It is the 4th race of the season after our Phoenix doubleheader last week, which effectively replaced the proposed Texas race that was supposed to occupy the 3rd race of the season. But as we are here, we reach another Roval type course at Daytona, and as we see this race tonight, Charlie, it will be the first time the Bundren Lawn Care Series sees a road course in the regular season for the first time in its history, with Daytona right here spliced in the middle of this 4th race. And of course, since it is the first time we see a road course in this regular season, I know there's a lot of things to be watching for, especially when you attack a track such as this. What is really there to keep in mind? What's going to be the key here, especially for each and every one of these drivers behind the wheel tonight, to make sure they make the most effective runs here to track so difficult?
Well, I think road courses really do add a lot to a schedule, and that really gives some of these guys a chance to really kind of prove their skill turning, well, right. And we're going to start to see some of those guys who put a lot more focus on the roadside in iRacing start to shine through. You know, people like Sartaj Mon, Aiden Kirker, Corey Hartz, those guys in the top 10 currently in the qualifying boards right now. So I think we're definitely going to see a lot of those guys shine through tonight. But yeah, I'm really excited because there's a lot of oval guys, guys that are centered around ovals that are up there as well.
So many different levels of skill going to be taking place, especially when you look at even some of the road course regulars. Obviously, Nick Miller, Parker White, Blaze McKinney, and maybe even drivers like Brody Garner, who's unfortunately not here tonight. I was going to mention Jordan Kuntz as well. He's not here as well. But nonetheless, going to have a lot of drivers in differing levels of skill going to be shining here on the road course at Daytona International Speedway. Just going to get a little bit more of a reference as to where we are in the virtual world. Going to take a look at our KBRN Track Map with images provided by Google, or take a look all the way down into northern Florida. There is the historic Daytona International Speedway, not on the oval this time. Going to be taking our hand at the road course, 3.61 miles, 14 turns. Obviously, the track located in Daytona Beach, Florida. Track history opened all the way back in 1959. So lots of history to be taking place at a track like this. And as we're seeing all the drivers heading on to the grid right now, qualifying is just about wrapped up. It is about our time to take a look at that starting grid. See exactly where every single driver and your favorite driver will be starting here tonight from Daytona. On the pole is the 95 of Parker White with a 150.633. He nabs the pole just over Nick Miller, 151.465, enough to set this front row.
Row number 2 sees one of last week's doubleheader winners, Blaze McKinney, and number 87. He'll start on the inside of row number 2, and to his outside, Cole Williams, another experienced road racer, will start on the outside of row number 2.
Row number 3 featuring the 49 of Sartaj Mon, and starting in the top 5, and right alongside him, the number 39 Media Racing driver of Aiden Kirker.
Lots more road course racers to go through here. Corey Hartz for Proximity Racing will start on the inside of row number 4, and to his outside, Zach Miracle, and the number 32 car will start 8th.
Row number 5 featuring the number 84 of Aaron Tribble, right alongside him, that number 51 Bodega Paint Chevrolet Camaro. Brady Weileman will start tonight from the 10th spot.
Row number 6 sees the 24 PJ Murrill starting on the inside, and to his outside, Aiden B. Murray in that number 36. That'll run out row number 6.
Now look, row number 7, Jonathan T. Jones, one of the drivers who nabbed the top 5 at Phoenix doubleheader for his team. Last week, he'll start 13th with Glenn Bundren Jr., the Grassman himself, starting on row number 7, 14th.
Right behind them, Mitch Hobbs at number 87 Gold Bowling Ford Mustang, and to his outside, Aaron Mulrooney Jr., a car that I kind of expected a bit of a better qualifying spot, but nonetheless, I'm excited to see him try to dig his way through the field. He'll start 16th.
Back to
18th.
row number 9, 17th, Josh Duke. William Schmidt will be in the outside, and 18th on row number 9. Going to take a look through the rest of this field. Wiley Marabello, also a top 5 runner at Phoenix. Last week, he'll start 19th. Parker Collins in at 20th. See some notable drivers here. Kevin White Jr., Ezekiel Reyes down here 24th. Max Urich 25th. Marshall Ryder and Gabriel Edwards, this row consisting of drivers making their first start. Also, Joe Knuckle in the number 33 making his first start. Lots of drivers here tonight from the Daytona International Speedway. And, of course, going to be quite possibly one of our key events, maybe our marquee event, Charlie, as soon as we get this green flag. A track that really shows no difference whatsoever, or at least no similarities to a lot of other tracks. Very, very unique in its own right. And also, comparative to the Charlotte Roval that we'll see later in the season, there's no elevation changes. Everything is flat. So we're going to see how those drivers try to nab in the throttle, especially maybe with a little extra grip under this sunset setting as we go under the lights. Pace car is going to be making its way down to pit road, or is down the front straightaway, at least the chicane down on the front stretch. And as Parker White and Nick Miller make their way 2x2 all the way down, we are green flag racing from the Daytona Road Course.
A lot of guys taking it easy. We're seeing 3 wide back there, but that's really the start that a lot of these guys need, and everyone's looking pretty clean so far.
You're pretty clean. Actually, maybe not too clean. There was Mitch Hobbs going way off into the grass. The number 89 Ford Mustang would take a look all the way into the grass, but meanwhile, still up front, it is all Parker White at the head of this field. Take a look at the scramble all behind the main pack. Single file all through at least the top 8, 9, 10 or so. Before we get to a gaggle of cars all the way behind. Take a look at each and every corner. There's some of the corners that we're watching for. The International Horseshoe and this Western Horseshoe, looking all the way down to this corner. As one car's around, that is Parker Collins. And the number 21, he found his way around on the racetrack. And remember, no yellows on this road course. We're going to be looking at no yellows whatsoever when we get through. That is Parker Collins around there in the number 21. And Charlie, no yellows on this racetrack. We will have a competition yellow right at the midpoint of this race at lap number 20. But apart from that, if you make a mistake, it's all on you.
Yeah, that's really one of the main factors of going to a road course on the iRacing service is you really have a chance to kind of prove your skill in saving tires, really, because a lot of the times on an oval track, the guys can catch a yellow pretty late in the run, get tires, and do some strategy. But this, you have to stay consistent all the way throughout the run, or else you're going to fall back.
And here's one of the corners that is going to be very treacherous for these drivers. Recently added just a couple of months prior to the NASCAR event. The front stretch chicane with the turtles right there. You see the 87 Blaze McKinney just nabbing it just a little bit. But of course, if you hit those very hard, Charlie, that car is going to sustain some amount of damage. We have completed lap number 1, though, with Parker White all the way at the front, though. Not too much of a gap, though, to second place. About less than half a second between that 87 and Sartaj Mon running the third in that 49.
Yeah, this is a run that Parker White's going to take very, very seriously because, man, Parker White has come close so many times in the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series, and it's just slipped out of his hands so much. And this win would mean a lot to him. It'll be his. Oh my goodness.
Peter Kenny's around. The 09 of Colton Zimmer also took a ride. He also has damage. Maybe Peter Kenny out of this race for good. Saw one car there. That's Marshall Ryder making his first start. There is a gaggle of cars all the way back here. There's Joseph Costello, who told me prior to the race he's not using his foot pedals for this race. He's using his paddle shifters on the wheel in order to maintain throttle and brakes. So far, maintaining a position all the way back in the top 25. He's 24th right now. Also looking up there as well. But as we're looking up to the front, still all Parker White. I think the top 5 about within, or the top 4 within 1.8 seconds, and it's 3.1 all the way back to Corey Hart's in this top 5. Cole Williams sitting in 6. Aiden Kirk are those two teammates in the top 10.
Yeah, Cole Williams, Aiden Kirk, they a lot of these guys in the field have some endurance racing experience. Some of these guys taking on the Rolex 24, but Aiden Kirk and Cole Williams and me, we were all on a team for the iRacing Petite Le Mans, 10 Hours of Road America, and that gave us a lot of good road racing experience. So it's good to see them try to translate that to the Cup cars.
And if you're looking down underneath that NASCAR Cup Series logo right on the doors, you can see a special logo for Romain Grosjean, the F1 driver for Team Haas in the F1 side of things. I got into that horrific accident at the Bahrain Grand Prix just this past weekend. Obviously, thankful that he is okay from that vicious crash, and as he's being treated, of course, they have a little sticker, a little bit of a kind of tribute to him, saying you're racing for Romain. Obviously, the number 82 Cole Williams has it, Aiden Kirker has it, and also one of KBRN's own Francisco Bacalhau, currently sitting 23rd, also holds that underneath the NASCAR Cup Series cars. Obviously, they didn't mention it to me to say it on the broadcast, so obviously one of those things to mention. A little bit of a special thing they have on their cars, specialty to tonight. So far, though, Parker White has led every lap of the way. We're only breaching lap number 3 of the 38-lap event. But look at this battle for third as Nick Miller, winner of the Phoenix doubleheader in the second race, is trying to find his way past that Proximity Racing Toyota Camry. Sartaj Mon.
Yeah, Nick Miller jumped into the inside in the International Horseshoe, but this corner just flipped around to Sartaj Mon's favor, and he'll try to clear him as they start to climb up the banking, and Sartaj Man will take back that third position. So this is a battle that I expect to see continue throughout the race.
And Nick Miller, one of those drivers who we kept our eye on the entire time throughout the race at the Charlotte Roval in the playoffs last season, when he was driving for Team Sims Performance Group in that Toyota Camry. Obviously was teammates with the two drivers right in front of him, Sartaj and Blaze McKinney, but he was one of those drivers battling toe-to-toe with Brody Garner for the race win. Obviously, he did end up on the short end of the stick on that one. Brody Garner got the win, obviously, that we know in season number 2 at the Charlotte Roval. But that number 9 machine, or at least at the time was known as the 88, had a well-promising run at that track and really showed that he's really able to wheel a race car, especially in these types of configurations, because you obviously have the permanent road courses. You can give and take, obviously, the permanent road courses in the NASCAR Cup Series, NASCAR Xfinity Series, Gando RV and Outdoors Truck Series, not to mention just some of the few, Sonoma, Watkins Glen, Canadian Tire, Road America, Mid-Ohio, all of those being permanent road courses. Those are meant to be those road courses. Those are meant to have whatever they're going to have. They have some different configurations, but all of them know that is a true-to-heart, pure road course. Here at tracks like Daytona, tracks like Charlotte Roval, those tracks are kind of the mix of the two. They have the best of both worlds. They have the banking. They have that oval section, which are going to be high speed. Obviously, that the downforce would help a lot. And then you have these corners, these very tricky corners at the Charlotte Roval, which is a lot shorter. And then you have the Daytona Road Course, who has made its history as one of the most famous road courses due to, obviously, the events such as the Rolex 24. But still, that mix between the Roval, the oval section, and all the road course components makes it way different from, let's say, if you're visiting a Road America or such.
That was very insightful.
Yeah, very different. I mean, they are very different. And obviously, one of the good things and one of the cool things about that iRacing service, especially when you're here, you could be any sort of role at all, and you can still have this same car, this same track, put the same combo together, have the same track conditions, and you can try your hand at what these drivers are experiencing. Obviously, fixed setups, so everyone has the same thing apart from maybe brake bias. They can change their steering offset and steering ratio. That's as far as they can go when it comes to tinkering to these NASCAR Cup Series machines. However, though, you can go and take your route on this racetrack. I remember being a part of the practice session just earlier today when all the drivers formed a practice session right here under the nighttime conditions, see what kind of times they can put down, especially just getting used to this track since it is so tricky. And I can really sympathize with these drivers and just how hard it is to get around this track, just how insane the braking points are at corners like these, this chicane all the way in the front straightaway, the horseshoes, just how hard it is to get the throttle in off the exit on these very flat corners. And one of the great things about the sim is that you can take your hand at any sort of track and you can experience what these drivers are feeling as they go. You're looking at Aiden Kirker, who's fallen back through 6 as Corey Hartz has maintained this top 5 so far, top 4 at a breakaway.
Yeah, and as I mentioned before, Corey Hart, Sartaj Man, those are really, really experienced road racers on the iRacing platform. So I am in no way surprised that these guys are running up front right now, and they've run multiple endurance events for teams such as Proximity Racing, Key Performance, and yeah. So you can, once you see them connect to this session, you know that you're in for a treat because they are really, really tough to beat.
There's Peter Kenny who got into that incident. It seems as though he's just stuck on the exit of pit road. I guess he's just there just watching the action. You did see Keelan Belsha who just exited pit road. And obviously one thing to mention as well, these drivers will have to pit before the end of this race. I mentioned, talked to some of the drivers, of course, with Cole Williams, who said this fuel strategy, or at least the fuel window, was going to last about 9 laps, maybe even 12 if you could stretch it all the way through before these drivers have to go down pit road and make that stop. So we probably will see drivers head down pit road under the green flag, have to reset and then put the fuel back in their race cars before they can go back on the track, make sure they are stable enough to reach to the end on fuel and on that gas tank. As you're looking for a battle for 8th right now, behind Aiden Kirk, kind of a 3-car train here, and 3 wide actually for position as Aaron Stribble and Josh Patterson make their way through.
Yeah, it seems like Aiden Kirk is just struggling right now. I'm not sure if that's just an issue of saving tires, but he has fallen off the pace quite a bit, and he'll have some work to do. Maybe once he gets to his pit stop, he has a bit of a reset with those fresh tires and is able to make up a bit more ground. But Aiden Kirker are close to being shuffled out of the top 10.
And throughout this one, you saw him fall back from at least his top 5 all the way back to the latter half of the top 10. Here is the driver holding this top 10 spot, though. Zach Miracle is making his first start. Actually, maybe not holding top 10 any longer as Marooney goes by. He overshoots turn number 1. But Zach Miracle, one of the new drivers here in the Bundren Lawn Care Series, making his first start. Obviously, there are just a handful of drivers making their first start here in this series. I believe Jackson Menchu also being one of those drivers who has not made an appearance so far in this season. Looking a little bit further back, you see drivers who are making their first start, such as Joe Knockel in the number 33. He's making his first start after being back. He posted on Instagram just a week prior the Phoenix doubleheader about how excited he was to go finally be back in this series. Brandon Paunetto, Blue Jimmy Fan 48 on YouTube, the famous YouTuber there in the NASCAR community. He's making his first start as well in that number 34 Chevrolet Camaro, currently running at the moment in 28th. Marshall Ryder, also a new driver, a fellow driver, the iRacer 75 on Instagram, his tag handle, also one of the drivers making his first start. So there's a lot of drivers in this top 30, top 35 still on their way, making their starts, hopefully for the long term at least, in the Bundren Lawn Care Series. So far, though, it has been all Parker White, about a second and maybe some change over Blaze McKinney right now. It's been all controlling for the 95.
A perfect run so far for Parker White, and it'll be fitting to get at least a good finish here tonight after the heartbreak that was the LWRC Cup Series Championship race. Similarly to what's going on right now, he had a dominating lead and was looking to lock it up, but unfortunately the caution came out, and further contact was made from there.
Yeah, and if you watched that race just last Saturday, you saw how intense that was, especially how intense I was up to the booth watching that final lap contact with Parker White after he was dominating that entire event. Had contact with Cole Williams on a green-white checkered restart, and then they both went around. Aiden Kirker was able to slip by, and as a result, Kirker was the LWRC NASCAR Cup Series champion in that inaugural season after Parker had a miraculous season on that front in his debut, winning a race, and won a couple of races there, but he has yet to win a race on the Bundren Lawn Care side of things, and we've talked about it so much, Charlie, so many times about how close he's been, the strategies that have really not fallen his way, the little tiny mistakes, or maybe things that have been out of his control that have been the reason as to why he has not picked up a checkered flag. You talk about places like Charlotte, was not there on the tire strategy. On the old tires, stayed out. Obviously, Nick Miller, Blaze McKinney on the fresh tires were able to scoot by, and they ended up taking first and second as Miller ended up winning the race. Go to Chicago, where Parker was also right behind Hunter Johnson, about to make the pass with 2 laps to go, and a caution comes out, sets up for a green-white checkered, and all of a sudden Blaze McKinney carves through the field on that miraculous ending to the race and won that one. Look at Las Vegas, another case of the tire strategy where he was on old tires versus everybody on the fresh rubber and easily went back into the top 10. And then obviously you have to mention that championship run to Phoenix Raceway where he had contact with Aaron Mulrooney, sending him around, and ultimately ended his shot at a title in season number 2. Obviously looking for a way better season right now, and so far has started this race with a bang. Top 3 have stayed the same. There's Mitch Hobbs, who's a couple laps down, kind of holding up Sartaj Mondos, trying to 49, just trying to get around to the tri-oval. Seems as though everyone's pretty much single file out. Some changes for positions, some change of hands, but not necessarily too much to watch out for. I think everybody and most of the battles seem to be happening around this top 20, top 30.
Yeah, some names moving up. Aaron Mulrooney, like we mentioned before, moved himself into the top 10. But one position behind him, Brady Wheelman, putting together a decent run for him today in that number 51 car. Started 10th, though. I guess he lost 1 spot, but he's still staying very consistent here.
You see the spread amounts of drivers. Some drivers here right in the infield just entering. You saw just a couple of drivers there on the banking. That's just how much the distance is for a lot of these drivers. There's Brady Wildman, obviously, that Charlie mentioned, started 10th, currently sitting 11th after losing 1 spot. Good to see him in this top 10, maintaining some sort of consistency at this track. He's currently right now running in the midst of this top 10. He could be on the edge right now, slowly catching that number 2, but could be under some pressure from that number 7 machine of PJ Merrill. Right now, obviously still lots of drivers to be working around the track. You're taking a look at just some of those drivers, as Joseph Costello might have had some significant damage to his Chevrolet Camaro. Also, Francisco might have some damage. There's Ezekiel Reyes in 22nd. So here's a line of cars that could possibly keep your eyes peeled for as we continue to move on. Just a reminder that if you want to join the conversation with us up in the KBRN booth, you can do so by using hashtag AskKBRN and put your question there with that hashtag. We'll be sure to answer it just as soon as you send it. And of course, we'll answer it to the best of our abilities. Just one of the ways we can kind of interact with the people down in the YouTube chat who are watching this race. May have some questions about the race, about the league, about our services, and maybe about anything else within appropriate reason. Obviously, you can use hashtag AskKBRN for anything you want to ask. Here's a battle for 22nd as we continue to move forward. Lap number 9.
And Sartaj Man has decreased the gap to just a car length, right behind Nick Miller. We saw them kind of fan out, but yeah, he's caught back up. I wouldn't be surprised to try to make some move, but if I were him, I'd just kind of lay back until the first pit stop started.
And we've yet to see any drivers head down pit road just yet, so we're probably going to be looking for that as we've just crossed the line for lap number 9. And you're still looking for the battle right here for that podium spot. Seems to be one of the closest battles we've seen so far. And also a great one for Sartaj Man himself. Obviously had a rough night at Phoenix. I think a lot of other drivers can say the same thing. They've had very rough nights, a lot of cautions to plague that one out. And Sartaj was one of those drivers who was involved in many incidents. Obviously had a roughed up race car and really practically could not finish this race. So it is good to see him now up here with the top 5 and having a decent one with a very clean race car.
Yeah, keeping your car clean and keeping it on the track, I should say, is really, really important for these road courses, because one mistake, just a couple inches of your tire in the grass, whether that be in the chicane or in the infield section, that can send your car around and that can tear up your tires, give them flat spots, and then you might be off pace for the rest of the run. So it's really, really important, especially in the iRacing service, to keep your car on the track, try not to scrub off the tires, and really just maintain that tire wear.
And that comes back full circle to the conversation about just what needs to be done in order to kind of sufficiently have a clean race at a track, especially like this, where, as you're riding along with Sartaj Man here, mistakes seem to be some of the biggest forms of kind of the deficit that seems to roll drivers around as Sartaj makes his way to 3rd. Mistakes seem to be some of the biggest topics to talk about at tracks like these, where precision really is needed. Any sort of mistake can easily send you off the track, can easily send you losing positions, losing track position, could possibly send you in a worse situation, could put you in either one of these guardrails, in the barriers, could give you some damage, could spin you completely around and give you a hard time, especially as the tires wear out, and especially in that corner they had just exited right there, the International Horseshoe, which is just so flat and is just so long of a corner that when you're exiting, you're trying your best to put the throttle in the most you can, but the car just wants to snap. The car just wants to go around, and it does not care what you say about it, does not care what you do. There's the 49 getting a little bit loose off of that corner and trying to get back up to the Daytona Oval banking. So just a testament to just how difficult it is to drive these NASCAR Cup Series cars at a track like this. And in a way, Charlie, this could also give us some sort of a preview as to what we might see come Charlotte Roval time during the playoffs, because obviously I know that this is a completely different track. It does have that Roval layout, but it is a lot bigger. Obviously, the corners are a lot different. There are no elevation changes at a track like this compared to the Roval, but it could, in a way, for some degree, bring some sort of preview as to what we could see, which drivers we need to look out for when we come to that Roval, especially when we have drivers in the playoffs running for that title.
Yeah, and I can tell you now that a lot of the names that we're seeing in the top 5 or the top 10 really in this race are definitely going to be up front. Back then, it's just there's such a big difference between being so skilled at a road course and being so skilled at a Roval. But I'm getting word that a couple guys are coming to pits.
And there's Parker White. Just as he said that, leader Parker White has gone down pit road. McKinney will follow. We'll see you 3rd and 4th. Tag along. Miller will decide to stay out as Sartaj will find his way in. So we'll cycle around. Net P1 will go to Nick Miller for the time being. So far, I don't think anyone else has made their way down pit road. Cole Williams has made his way down pit road. Actually, no, Cole decided to stay out. Aiden is now in pit road. Tribble staying out. So we have some drivers on a split here, maybe deciding to stretch it out just a little bit more. Remember, when it comes to, at least what the drivers have said, maybe lap 9 through lap number 12, or at least 9 to 12 laps could be that stretch. Maybe we see even more if these drivers are able to save enough fuel and bring it all the way back home to the start finish line and the pit entry, where they can go down pit road, have enough fuel to get in their pit stall, and then be off and away once they fuel that car once again and get some fresh rubber. So we could possibly see that down the road. There's Parker White, who already just got out of his pit stall, not too far out with the distance. That's also one of the things to help out with the road course. As Parker White gets into pit lane from first, he exits just outside of this top 5.
Yeah, and I'm really interested to see how Nick Miller's strategy plays out, because he stayed out a lap, but that's going to give him an extra lap of, I guess, fresh tire, you could say. And that's really going to compare to some of these guys who put it just a lap before, especially on a road course with such big size as this. It'll make that difference a lot more than you'd think.
So we'll see if that 9 decides to go down pit road, because maybe he's just stretching it one more lap in order to cover the distance, so that, let's say, he can go down pit road and get out without having to concede to the race lead, and he could just stay there. Maybe fall, maybe 1 position, 2 positions, but it won't be as harsh as maybe it was for Parker White when he pit from the lead. We'll find out as soon as the number 9 exits that front straightaway chicane. You see him there as he's about to get by the 60 of Joseph Costello, but Costello seems to have broken away from that chicane. There's Nick Miller down pit road, so our leader will make his way down. We'll see if anybody else will follow.
Yeah, I would expect the guys who didn't come down last time to come down this time, and this will really secure them for when we get our competition yellow on lap number 20.
Yeah, our competition yellow coming about 8 laps from now. Net P1 now will go to Parker White, as Miller will be on a pit road. Maybe it could cut close. I'm pretty sure Parker White will find his way back to the race lead where he started. You see Parker Collins getting out of pit road. Miller is now just exiting with Joseph Costello, so now it's revolved back around to the race leader and second place, third place as well. Sartaj holding on to that podium spot as he got out just after Nick Miller, and he will be taking that spot away as we're going through the infield road course. Got a question by Wyatt Dooling down in the YouTube chat. He asks, what do you think is the hardest R on the track? I think maybe say hardest part of the track, maybe hardest corner. I'd say probably, if it came down to my perspective, if driving, especially at this track, I think probably the hardest parts, or at least the hardest part in the turn of this track, will probably either go to turn 1. That is quite possibly one of the most difficult parts of the track to even go through, because you're braking and you're turning, you're also getting off the banking. That transition also can hurt the car, and then it's very easy for you to overshoot that corner and lock up the brakes and try your best to get there, and all of a sudden the car can just snap around. So that seems to be the hardest part, at least for me, Charlie. I know you've taken some laps around this track in many different cars. What seems to be the hardest part of the track when it comes to your perspective behind the wheel?
Yeah, I have a lot of experience. I ran the 2020 Rolex 24 with Trexco SimSport, and the hardest part of the track were really the hard braking corners, and that's really turn 1 and the entrance to the backstretch bus stop. And it's really, really easy in a road car and in a stock car to lock up the tires and get it all loose and get it all scrambled up, and you really have to gather it. So it takes a lot of practice in order to hit the braking right.
Yeah, braking markers very, very key, especially at that corner that you just saw they just exited, because that is also one of the toughest parts. I mean, it's really hard to label the hardest. I mean, I already said turn 1 might be the hardest, at least for me, but for any driver, any corner on this track can provide some sort of trouble. We saw it, obviously, the Charlotte Roval. That also presents the same thing.
Cole Williams, when he went through the backstretch chicane, Chase Rogers just walled him. I don't know if you can go back and take a look at that.
We'll try to find where Cole Williams is, currently sitting in 8th. There is damage to that Toyota Camry. We'll take a look. You said it was down to the back straightaway chicane where he got into trouble.
Yeah, it was down on the backstretch chicane. He was trying to get by the Chase Rogers, and wow.
Doesn't seem we can provide it. I'm not even sure whether we can go. You see him there as he's going around, but it doesn't look like it's giving any sort of feed. We'll try to look and see from Chase Rogers' view whether he had a play in that incident as well. Seems though we can't even look for it in the right place, so I guess we might be just stuck mysterious for now when it comes down to that. But so far, Williams with heavy damage to his Toyota Camry. That probably might affect him. Maybe some engine damage down the stretch if we have that go down. Rogers currently holding that 34th spot, only one lap down, and a couple of the drivers already in this top 30, 35 that have major damage, including owner Glenn Bundren with his front bumper completely torn off the race car. I'm not sure whether engine damage may have fluked him as well. But already we're seeing drivers getting wounded very, very early in this race before we even get to that halfway segment.
Yeah, and Chase Rogers has been removed from the race by Edmonds from that incident with Cole Williams, because that tore up his car a lot, and that virtually ruined Cole Williams' run.
And you can easily see it right there. I'm not sure whether he's going to try to go down pit road for this. I think he may have to stretch it to lap 20 in order to make sure that he's on the lead lap, to make sure he's still in competition, while also making sure he's able to get some of that damage fixed, or at least try to repair the most of it, and maybe all of it if he has the best situation go down. And you can see already the hard damage there, especially on that right side where he tapped the outside wall, and even worse for him, almost completely spinning on the entrance to the International Horseshoe right in front of the 89 of Mitch Hobbs. And you can tell he is struggling with that car, both fenders being smashed in on either side.
Yeah, he's... yeah, that's really, really unfortunate for Cole Williams. A good place in points for him as well.
Right now, looking at a battle for what looks to be fourth. This is kind of a half a second gap between Corey Hartz and Nick Miller. Remember, Miller took over the lead by staying out on that pit strategy. Ever since he went down pit road, he is now back to this top 5. So he's going to have to duke it out here with Corey Hart as they both are looking for position. There's Josh Duke, who is a lapped car. We'll see if he does get out of the way, but very close goes Nick Miller. He caught up to him very quickly on the entrance of that bus stop. Going to try to look for the oval, maybe even that front stretch chicane in order to try and make that pass happen, but it is tough as they're looking up, and you can see just how tough it is going here on this gyro cam with Nick Miller on the braking zone right here. Oh man, made that pass to the outside. What a textbook pass by Nick Miller for top 4.
And he almost misses that corner. That's going to let Corey Hartz get the run, but one of the things here, that this brings us back to the fresh tires. Nick Miller came back almost 10 seconds behind Corey Hartz, and he's made up that gap because he pitted just a lap later. And that's, I talked about it when it happened, that's how much tires make a difference.
And especially when you compare it to the ovals. I mean, the ovals are just hold no comparison to a track like, especially here, the Daytona Road Course, where you're going about 1:50, maybe even 2 minutes if you stretch it. If you're that slow on the racetrack, if your car is that handicapped, you're going about 1:50, 1:55 now, about a couple seconds in fall off ever since we went over to qualifying. But much different than the ovals, where you can get around in maybe 30 seconds at the most, maybe 40, 50 seconds if you maybe go at tracks like Talladega. The tire difference is just astronomically different, and where you have so many of these corners to go through. And obviously that is going to Nick Miller's favor, where he's already cut that gap down to Corey Hart. He's now up to 4th, and already is starting to cut into the gap between himself and 3rd place Sartaj Mon, as the top 2 leaders continue to find their way through. And we are continuing to get through. Charlie, you may have a development.
Blaze McKinney, as he was exiting just this last lap, as he was exiting to get back onto the NASCAR oval, he overshot and kind of hit the barrels. I don't see any visual damage on that race car, but
oh, there it is.
Still not good for the tires, but we still had just 5 laps till we get to our comp yellow, which he didn't lose any spots. He only lost a decent amount of seconds on Sartaj Mon, but he's still holding 2nd.
Yeah, that's the thing between the distance. He's now about 8.7 seconds behind race leader, and maybe just about 3 seconds between himself and the podium spot. I was just about to ask you, though, Charlie, about that competition caution and just how crucial that will be, because we were initially just going to plan to run this all green if we could, obviously with the exception of very large pileups, which usually doesn't happen at a track like this. If a large pileup were to happen, the officials would throw that yellow flag in case of emergency. But if it were not that way, which it looks most of the time we go to tracks like these, usually is not, you'd probably just run flag to flag from here to the end of this race, but the admins decided and the officials decided before this race went underway that they will have a competition caution at lap number 20 to splice the middle of this race, and then they will continue to go green flag racing all the way to lap number 38 when we get to the conclusion of this race. Very interesting though, because you're looking at this first one, it's 20 laps, and I'm not sure how long you can stretch it down on fuel. We pitted at about lap 9, lap 10, so maybe it could cut close when we go to lap number 20. Maybe the drivers will stay out just a little bit longer. And what think might be the strategy here, Charlie, as we approach this competition caution, and what might be the move down pit road, or will there be any moves down pit road?
Oh, I expect. Sorry, I was communicating with race control there, but could you repeat that question for me?
Just about this competition caution, and of course in about 4 laps time, and just how close it's going to be on the fuel, and of course what it's going to mean for these drivers that were initially going to be planning flag to flag racing, but now have that competition caution in the middle. Do you think there'd be any sort of strategy down pit road to kind of couple with that competition caution? Do you think it might just be monkey see, monkey do, everybody go down the same way, everybody follow on that same page?
I really think that, the way this competition caution is set up, it's going to be really, really tight on fuel. And, coupled with the ending of this race, these cars can really only go 10 laps on fuel, and we're gonna get the yellow flag on lap number 20. So we got 2 full fuel runs, and these guys are gonna have to try to coast it back to get more fuel in the race cars. So I think that everyone's just gonna try to lay back and save fuel. I don't know what to expect, honestly.
Could be something to watch for as we proceed through this race. We had about, I'd say, 43 drivers enter into this race. Right now we have about 31 on the lead lap, or at least no, actually not 31, 22 on the lead lap, with the last one on the lead lap being that number 30 of Francisco Bacallao, currently holding with some damage to that left front. Not sure where he accrued that, or whether he accrued any on the right side, maybe from the wall, but he certainly struggled here just a little bit, has a little bit of damage to his race car. Most of the battles seem to be happening around this 20th spot. I did take a look at Henry Tabor, who he's leading this kind of lead pack of cars. There's Cole Woody in the number 40, Richmar Flores racing car for, I believe, Airborne Performance Racing, which he's running with. And then Tabor in the number 5, Bridget Olson, Daytona 200 winner in 20th. And then a little bit further back, Brandon Paunetto running 21st. So just a handful of drivers to watch within these top 20 that could make a run, maybe even then. And look who's running 15th and 16th right now. The drivers who finished in 4th and 5th when we came to the second race of the Phoenix doubleheader. Those both Airborne Performance Racing drivers of Jonathan T. Jones and Riley Marabello. Good to see them running kind of in tango together as 2 teammates. I think that's pretty fitting considering they're all together.
Yeah, it's good to see after kind of a feel-good story for those guys last week of the Phoenix doubleheaders. They're doing pretty well for themselves right now.
Trying to hold on and at least get some sort of team points, because obviously it's not just about driver points, it's about team points. We have, and we will have, a team champion. Well, we have a current team points leader, but we obviously will have a team champion come the end of this season. So it's not just about the drivers. Obviously the drivers and the individual stats are obviously great, and of course having success on that front, having wins, that obviously helps towards that team cause. But even consistent finishes can put your team up there in the conversation for a team champion by coming into the year, even if you are not running for a title individually as a driver. This is a battle from 9th on back to 11th, and we've been watching this guy. We've been watching these guys specifically, obviously Brady Weileman, and we've been also watching Aaron Tribble in a handful of these battles. They've been making their way throughout this group, and now we're approaching about 2 laps left to go until this competition caution. Maybe some spots to grab before we grab that yellow flag.
Yeah, definitely, and it's going to be really important to get a good position when we come to the restart, and that's definitely going to shake a lot of stuff up, because a lot of guys really have kind of shaken themselves down and got a feel for the race car and what it's like, and a lot of guys are going to try to make some moves when we get to that restart. So I expect it to be a lot more intense than the initial green flag that we had. So I expect turn 1 to be pretty crowded down there.
Yeah, turn 1, and we saw it obviously on the initial start, was pretty crowded, but even then it's like you don't have that expectation of what's going to happen. You don't even know where half of the drivers' braking spots are, whether they brake later, whether they brake earlier, and sometimes you even brake earlier just to be cautious, just to make sure that you don't get caught up in anything, you don't collect with any other drivers, and you're able to be clean through turn number 1, where it gets very narrow very quick, especially with the plethora of drivers we have in tonight's event. Obviously, in that second restart, the drivers are a little more comfortable with the race cars. It could be something to watch here, Charlie, especially since we don't have any yellow flags. Maybe we do get that pileup that brings out another yellow flag. Hopefully that's not the case, but it's still not out of the question whatsoever. Now we're about 1 lap to go, and about 2 laps to 1 lap to go until we get to our competition caution. So far, your lead maintains the same. And actually, we are halfway through this race, so we'll actually take a look through the field where every single driver is starting, of course, with your race leader by about 7 seconds, 7.1 seconds, 7 and change seconds. Parker White, the number 95 from McGrath SimSport, his Bundren Toyota Camry, could have put him in victory lane at Phoenix last week in both of the races. Unfortunate circumstances took him out of the win in both of those circumstances. Still looking for that first ever Bundren Lawn Care Series victory. Has been hard at work to make sure that is happening. And right now, he's looking at a good spot, sitting P1.
Last season's champion and last week's winner for one of the doubleheader races at Phoenix International Raceway. Blaze McKinney and the number 87 Chris Lilly designs for flying arrows in that Chevy Camaro. We see those colors a lot on the number 87 car, and it's good to see them back here. Currently running second, started third, changed 1 spot, and is currently in a really good position when we come to this restart. He'll start on the outside of Parker White, but Blaze McKinney, a good run here, good season so far. I'm sure he has no complaints as he has 1 win so far, and currently sitting second. I hope to see him try to challenge for the win here.
Proximity Racing, Sartaj Mon had a rough start to this season so far, but I think this might be the turning point. Currently sitting in the top 3 in that last step of the podium, has kept a clean race car and has practically kept himself out of trouble for the most part, and possibly one of the drivers to watch for, especially on the road courses. Very, very skillful on that part. Currently holding 3rd. He started 5th, so he's gained 2 spots since the drop of the green flag. He's maintained himself with some of the best on the track so far, all by himself in clean air, just looking to hold on for the rest of this event.
And Parker White is pitting as he's coming to the line to get this competition yellow. And the caution is out.
Well, there is Corey Hartz into 4th. We'll look at the rest of the top 5. Josh Patterson 5th. Aiden Kirker is sitting 6th. Actually, there's Parker White down pit road. I think he pitted just as the yellow was coming out. As Blaze McKinney, Sartaj Mon have taken position. Parker White's losing spots here on the racetrack as soon as this yellow came out.
Yeah, but that's going to help him a lot because he's still going to get back to the race lead once some of these guys pit.
Well, yeah, that could be true. Obviously, he probably won't go a lap down because of this, but interesting to see that he pitted just as the yellow came out. But we're looking the rest of your field. Aiden Kirker sitting 6th. Cole Williams sitting 7th. Aaron Mulrooney sitting 8th. Brady Weileman belongs to the 9th spot. Aaron Tribble will follow through to the top 10. William Schmidt 11th. Shane DiMantoba 12th. EMR driver J.J. Hill is sitting 13th. Nick Miller, who was your race leader at some point, is in 14th. P.J. Merrill 15th. Virgil Olsen 16th. 17th belongs to Jonathan T. Jones. 18th to Brandon Paunetto. 19th to Henry Tabor. And 20th to Ice Car owner Ezekiel Reyes. Kevin White Jr. 21st. Gabriel Edwards 22nd. Josh Duke into 23rd. Marshall Ryder making his first start into 25th. Parker Collins 26th. Cole Woody 27th. Then goes Mitch Hobbs 28th. Francisco Bacall and 29th. Joseph Costello in this top 30. Rest of the field goes as follows: Glenn Bundren, Zach Miracle, Jackson Menchu, Chase Rogers, Aiden Murray, Joe Knuckle, Keelan Belsha, Max Urich, Colton Zimmer, Peter Kenny, Latham Joyner, Kadarius Stave, and Mark Love. That's your entire field as we go through the field on the KBueno Racing Network. And as you just reached the halfway point in our competition caution on lap number 20, as Parker White made his way down pit road, he has exited in 5th. Obviously, Charlie, you mentioned that could be to his beneficiary, as he will stay out since he already made his service down to the pit lane. That's going to be a little bit of a while, Charlie, before we get back to the pit road and actually see drivers go down. Obviously, question is, will we have a split? I don't think there might be, considering how old these tires have gotten. But as you're looking in the background, the lights have officially flickered on. So we are now under full nighttime conditions here from Daytona started as the sun was glowing at the horizon, just ready to set down, and it has finally done so. So we're finally under the cloud cover and the nighttime sky as we continue here on the Daytona International Speedway. And Charlie, we're going to see some drivers go down pit road, and obviously Parker White will be a benefit, but what will be the difference here? I know it's going to be under yellow, so probably could be better for White in the meantime, but do you think it'll still be equal footing no matter what? That no matter, even if Parker White just pitted at the time of that yellow, that he'll just still be on equal footing with everybody else? He won't necessarily have an advantage?
I think, as that comment you said earlier, I think everyone's going to come down pit road. Everyone's going to be on the same foot as we come to this restart.
And indeed, you are right. Seems as though everybody on the lead lap will make their way down pit road, starting with McKinney on in the 49. Obviously, Corey Hartz, Josh Patterson, as Parker White will stay out, of course. The 04 Vasika Reyes, who I believe went a lap down, he'll get a wave around, so that's why he is out. He will obviously most likely go down pit road. Everybody else, though, we talked about Cole Williams, who may get that damage fixed down pit road, so this is now his time to get that fixed more than ever. As we stay every single driver down to the pit lane. Everyone going to make their way, find their way out. There's the battle there as McKinney wins it. Mon will be second. Josh Patterson third. Corey Hart seems to fall back to fourth. And you see a couple of those drivers there. I think one driver may have missed his stall. That was the 52. Just a little bit further back. And there's everybody. There's Nick Miller right there in that Sun Energy Camaro. You can see him just in the distance. So now we have an interesting hand. Look at the drivers who did stay out, though. I believe these are drivers. I'm not sure whether these drivers were a lap down, but PJ Merrill stays out on the track. He is right now classified as second on the track. I'm not sure whether he made that decision to pit with Parker White. That also could be a difference if he did. And actually, yes, he has pitted with these guys up here. So I believe he will hand over to second. And PJ Merrill will gain a lot of these spots. I don't think we even talked about this, Charlie, where Parker White may have not had the advantage, but drivers even further back, if they pit earlier, they have the advantage as well in terms of that. As we are moving forward, and as we're moving forward through the halfway point, we'll take a short commercial break and we'll step aside for a moment. You are watching the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series from the Daytona International Speedway and the Road Course. Coverage of tonight's iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series broadcast is brought to you by iRacing. Start your sim racing career today at iRacing.com. By EO Media, graphic design. For inquiries, just visit eo.media on Instagram. And by Supermix, concrete blocks on demand. Welcome back to the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series from the Daytona Road Course, our 4th race of the season. Just got over the 1 to green signal from the pace car under the lights from the World Center Racing, where Parker White will lead the field to the green flag alongside PJ Merrill. Parker White and PJ Merrill both pitted before the competition caution was waived, so those two will be at the front as Blaze McKinney, Sartaj Mon, Corey Hart, your top 5. Everybody else behind on the lead lap decided to go down pit road. So everybody practically on equal footing as we continue to move on to lap number 38. Obviously, happy to have you join us as we look to in the booth here in the commentary box. Myself, Kenneth Bueno, alongside Charlie Baier with you for all the coverage and, of course, the entire season of the Bundren Lawn Care Series from here all the way to Homestead, the championship event. As we continue to move on with this race, we had obviously those 20 laps under the green flag. Saw a lot of chaos, a lot of good battling, a lot of shuffling throughout the field, but not one for the race lead. It's been all Parker White ever since the drop of the green flag, ever since he took away the pole from everybody else in the qualifying session. He has held the lead ever since, has led practically every single lap apart from, I'd say, 1 or 2, as Nick Miller was the cause for that when we were under these green flag pit stops. So we will now get under the green flag very, very shortly, as we're now down to the backstretch chicane. And Charlie, we've had a couple drivers pit. Obviously, interesting situation seeing PJ Merrill up to the top of this field. I believe he pitted with Parker White, so that was the reason why he is here with the rest of these lead lap guys. But as we're looking into this next restart, you said it was going to be chaotic, but in terms of the second half, what do we seem to be looking forward to here?
Well, I see a lot of these guys are going to be battling hard for position as they come to this second half of the race, and we're definitely going to see that in turn 1 here. We're going to see a lot of guys making those moves and trying to make up as much position as possible to set themselves up for a good second half of the race. So I would expect this second half to be a lot more intense than the first half, because a lot of guys are going to be fighting for a lot more position.
Going to be a scramble for position over into turn number 1. We'll just have to find out how much that'll be, how strong that'll be for every single driver as they go line up 2 by 2 all the way down. Parker White and PJ Merrill will be the first 2 to lead the field of the green flag. Obviously, Parker will start everything off. Pace car going to make its way to the front stretch, chicane, and find its way, make a safety left all the way down to pit road. And we're going to get a restart lap number 23 as we are back under green from the Daytona Road Course.
And here comes Sartaj Man down to the inside, peeking under Parker White, not going to get there. Sartaj Man is second. Here comes Corey Hart as well.
Corey Hart's going to look his way to the podium spot as PJ Merrill tries to hang on the best he can. You're seeing the scramble all the way to the horseshoe. It seems as though we have been clean. Well, look at that scramble. Cars almost 2-3 wide all the way down. McKinney, though, finds his way back to second. So no harm, no foul as we stay side by side. Maybe single foul out for third all the way back to fifth as Merrill is battling with Patterson in the kink.
All 3 of these guys, second, third, and fourth here, have all been teammates with each other at some point. You know, at the beginning, Corey Hart used to be the owner of the 2 guys ahead of him, but then Blaze and Sartaj went to Sim Performance Group, but now Sartaj and Corey are now in proximity. So a bit of shuffling there, but these guys know each other pretty well. And oh, PJ Merrill.
PJ Merrill's around on the exit of the infield road course. There is a large stack up. There was Shane DiMantova. I believe Aaron Tribble might have also had a piece of that as well. As Tribble, yes, he is around there on the exit to the banking. He's going to try to merge safely back on with the rest of the crowd. Well, that would have been very scary for the drivers, even in the top 5, especially Josh Patterson, who was right alongside him to the outside just before that happened. But look who's all the way back into 6th, making his way. Nick Miller, who was once in the lead, who was once, I believe, 3rd at some point in this race. The pitch strategy, he's now trying to carve his way back to 5th as Aiden Kirker 7th. Brady Wyman into 8th. Aaron Maroney falls back to 9th. Shane DiMantova, first time we see him in the top 10.
Yeah, Nick Miller restarted in the 13th position and is already up there, so he's made up a lot of valuable ground that he really needs. There's also Shane DiMantova in a pretty good spot there as well. But we've kind of shaken ourselves down, and Blaze McKinney can really focus on running Parker White down as he is doing so.
Take a look at our EO Media onboard camera where you're looking right at the nose of that Chevrolet Camaro, our past season champion. He never run a road course like this, and actually I don't believe he ran the road course. He wasn't able to make the Charlotte Roval when we went there last season, whereas I believe he had a situation at hand to go to. So I believe Benjamin Fanning was his replacement at the time in the number 87. Obviously, Benjamin Fanning made also an appearance at Talladega in replacement of the 87 during the playoffs. So that 87 didn't know what it was like to be competing with the rest of these guys in the Bundren Lawn Care Series at the Roval last season, but it's not directly affecting him whatsoever because he is surely shining, and I think so far he's trying to catch up to the 95. They've broken away by about 3 seconds to Sartaj Mon, Corey Hartz, and the rest of those guys.
And the gap between the two leaders has been flushing a little bit, but the one thing that Blaze McKinney really has to focus on as he's trying to run him down is his tires, because he can use up his tires and get all the way up to his back bumper, but then he used up all his tires, so now he's going to fall back a little bit on pace, but Buckwhite seems to be pulling ahead just a little bit.
There's the gap between first and second, about 0.9 seconds, almost a full second. Now it's a full second as we reach across the backstretch chicane. I'm going to look for the bus stop here as White continues to find his way to the front with just 14 laps to go. But as we said, 14 laps to go, it's going to feel like an eternity for every single driver out here. Obviously, making a longer way around this racetrack than you would, let's say, at the ovals, where it would take a lot less. And, of course, anything can still change within these next 14 laps or so. Everybody else has dwindled in terms of all the battling that we saw. Side-by-side action really is no more, maybe apart from this little battle between Mulrooney and Shane DiMantova at the edge of the top 10. Everybody else practically single file. And guess who's into the top 12 after a comeback all the way back in the top 35? Brennan Paunetto has made his way to 12.
And here comes Cole Williams making up as much position as he can with a torn up race car with prior contact from Chase Rogers, and he's doing pretty well for himself with that much damage, but I'm sure he's pretty mad at Chase Rogers for really infecting his run today.
It's through the top 5. There's PJ Merrill, who stayed out, was second, has fallen back to 15th, obviously with that incident and the spin and an almost spin here on the horseshoe. Going to put him even further back, but that restart put him all the way back to 15th, so he has a lot of ground to make up in order to get back where he once was with that pit strategy. Obviously, assuming we have no yellows from here on out and that we don't have any huge incidents to kind of couple with anything else. So we continue to look forward, and actually, so far, and at least in this first run, I've seen Josh Patterson kind of claw through the field. I saw Sartaj kind of lose that gap just a little bit. Patterson quietly made his way to the top 5, and has so far been making a case for himself that could be one of the drivers to watch for on these road courses.
Yeah, Josh Patterson, just another couple drivers on the list of road ringers here. He's run the Rolex 24 many times for his team, Nova Sim Racing, and currently catching up to Sartaj Man, so he's having a better second half than he was in the first half, and he's looking for a podium position.
What would that mean for Patterson, especially if he's able to get a podium position? Not even just a podium position, even a top 5. To scramble away from a track like this, that could be just dodging a bullet. Because at tracks like these, it could be easy to make some sort of mistake. It could be easy to have a bad race, and it could be easy to just drop and plummet all the way through the point standings. But you have a good race like this at the tracks where you consider probably the most risky, it could just mean that the monkey off your back could relieve some stress, especially going for the playoffs, so especially going down the road. There's still a long way before we get to those playoffs, respectively, but starting here, making the starts here, making these consistent finishes can get you on a roll, as now there goes the Ford Mustang to the outside of the 49. Going to try the crossover on the horseshoe, and just not enough. Got loose. I'm going to try once more, hit the reset button.
And that's a common sight for Josh Patterson, to use up as much ground as he can, and you'll often see that number, whatever number he's driving on any given day. The back end will swing out a lot, and he's kind of grown a reputation for burning off with tires pretty quickly here, but he's still in a good spot.
He's a little bit further back. I'm not sure what happened to Francisco Bacallao. He's lost an entire hood off from this. I'm not sure whether this was earlier contact or what have you, but we'll try to take a look at the replay and where he was before all of this. I'm not even sure where he was actually on the racetrack as we're looking. Replays have not been on our favor, but there he goes around there on the horseshoe. Well, it's been a rough night for that number 30. He made a lot of practice laps to ensure that he could be one of the fastest ones on the track. Unfortunately, he's been on the short end of the stick for the start of the season. Again, it is his first season, so as a rookie, still trying to learn the most he can, especially in the competition as we run, especially at tracks like these where mistakes seem to really hamper everything as we move forward. But right now, it is still a 2-car breakaway. It was about 4 cars, Charlie, before this competition caution, at least in the early run. Throughout, when we got the initial green flag, we saw the 4 cars of White, McKinney, Mon, and I believe Corey Hart's or Nick Miller. Those were kind of the top 4, top 5 that have been breaking away from the field. This time, though, on this second restart, it's only been that tandem of White and McKinney between about 2 seconds. And Sartaj currently in a close-knit fight with Patterson. It really hasn't been done just yet.
Yeah, Josh Patterson's going to have another set of corners to try and get just the nose to the inside and get Sartaj a lane off the bottom on one of these corners, and he'll be able to go for a move. Josh Patterson has really been aggressive here and catching back up to Sartaj.
I've been looking over and watching these battles for the top 5, about top 10. There's still about a guys within less than a second of each other. Obviously, look at Nick Miller. He's also getting into this top 5. Corey Hartz has also been here as well. Kirker has found a name for himself. Mulrooney in this top 10 has got picked up at least one more spot. Demantova to 9th. Obviously, looking Brady Wallerman, who's also aiming for a top 10 motive here tonight, as Cole Williams is still, with all that damage, going to be looking back. There is still a lot of storylines, at least, and especially when it came down to making this race specifically as one on the schedule. It was partially one of the tougher decisions, because I remember you and I, when we first looked at the schedule, Charlie, when we first took a look at what we were going to see in Season 3, obviously Daytona was a must-have. Phoenix, after moving over from the championship race to the second race, didn't seem like too bad. And then we saw Texas in the race number 3. We had our expectations and our reservations about that. Obviously, that race never ended up happening due to the Phoenix doubleheader that we saw. And then we were just completely thrown away by the road course and the Daytona Road Course being just right here, dead middle of the season, especially at this early stage of the season where all these drivers are trying to get their momentum shaked up and trying to get their plan all the way to make it to the playoffs. Just a very interesting place to put it on the schedule, where obviously NASCAR was put last minute due to the not being able to go to Watkins Glen. So, I mean, at least in terms of this race, it's been rather interesting. It's been rather intriguing to look at, and especially into this schedule. I'm not sure whether it could make a long-lasting effect or whether this could just be a one-and-done situation for this league.
Well, yeah, I think, the first couple of races of a season and really any league are very, very important in order to get a good jump on the points and kind of see where you and your competitors are at, and see if you have to do more work to try to get into the playoffs, or you can just kind of relax, and if you're in a good spot, up over the playoff cutoff. But a road course really kind of throws a firework into the middle of it, and you really have to put your laps in. You have to really get some good runs and do a lot of practice in order to have and maintain a good run to get some points here.
Obviously, points going to be very crucial for even drivers like Parker White, drivers like Blaze McKinney, Miller. Obviously, those drivers, we've already had 3 different winners here in the season, Charlie, and it's been pretty interesting to see. I was probably expecting at some point in this season to see a repeat winner like we saw last season, where we had our winner at Daytona. Obviously, we had one of the Bad Esports cars make his way to victory lane. We saw then come to Richmond, where we saw Blaze McKinney take over the win. Obviously, North Wilkesboro, Blaze McKinney again. We've seen repeat winners multiple times, obviously with McKinney at the forefront of the conversation. But now, at least in this Season 3, we've seen 3 different winners. Could possibly be looking at 4. Should Parker White hold on for the next 10 laps or so and take away his first win of the season. We've seen Olsen win it right at this very place on the oval. We saw McKinney win the first doubleheader race. And we got the leaders actually going down pit road. There's Parker White heading down pit road. I believe McKinney will also follow. Miller and the rest of them, will see what they do. Seems as though Patterson will stay out. Mon will stay out. Mulrooney will stay out. I think Miller also decided to head down pit road along with Corey Hartz, maybe even Brady Wallerman. Actually, no, he's staying out. So we already have some sort of split as Patterson inherits the race lead in the horseshoe.
Yeah, this pit stop's going to be really, really crucial, and at least getting a little bit of time. And that pit exit is really, really kind of underrated, I should say, or it's taken a lot more aggressively than it should, because that can end your race very, very easily. Those are really tight walls.
Yeah, it's very, very, very tight. Obviously, I remember there was a TED Talk that I had watched about a race car driver, and I remember he made his start in the Rolex 24 with this team. And then there was one moment where he was on the way. He had just gotten into his car for a stint. He was going out to the pit lane, and then that pit exit happens, and then all of a sudden he hits the wall coming out of the pit lane. I don't know why I remember that, but I remember the clip where he was just trying to eagerly get out of pit road. All of a sudden he made a mistake, trying to be on the brakes to make that left-hander and merge onto the track. And then there was just heartbreak for him, at least, and some terrible situation to be hitting the wall and end that Rolex 24 run so early. And that obviously comes to a testament. It could really change anybody. It could really put anybody in a bad situation if you misjudge that little exit, especially coming to that wall. At least so far right now, I believe everyone, at least mostly on the lead lap, especially this top 10, have found their way or are gonna find their way down pit road. There's Patterson, Mon, going down pit road. Mulrooney should likely follow along with Brady Weileman, maybe Cole Williams. Could possibly also see them go down pit road. There's Mulrooney. Weileman's going to follow through. Williams, we'll see what he does, but should possibly also go through since he has yet to pit, and the lead should cycle back to Parker White in the number 95. Actually, no, the 82 will stay out an extra lap, so Parker White will inherit the race lead, but Williams will inherit second on the racetrack.
Maybe he was trying to get that bonus point, but he got it just snatched from him. As you do get a bonus point for leading a lap. He just got to snatch it right out of his hands. But what you talked about endurance racing, man. That's wow. That story is, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously completely different when you come to NASCAR. Because NASCAR doesn't have as long of races. You have maybe 3-4 hour long races. And obviously they're within a certain number of laps. Endurance racing obviously holds a different place in racing as a whole. Obviously a much different challenge. Obviously you have larger teams. You have a longer time, especially here at Daytona. I mean, this track is synonymous for 24-hour races. The 24 Hours of Daytona held every January, and we're actually, Charlie, approaching that. I know both of us are interested in racing that in that event, so obviously we're excited for that. But
Josh Patterson, when he exited pit road, just like he mentioned, he did slap that pit wall.
Well, look, here's a replay. Did he actually do the same thing? Well, maybe just too hard on the brakes. Oh, there it is.
Scrubbed it pretty good there. Got some damage, but it's still pretty early in the run, so that won't really. Well, I'm not sure actually.
I mean, he's falling back to 6, so it's not too bad. But at least from where he was, it's crucial positioning to guys like Jonathan Jones and Aaron Tribble, who are now occupying the top 5. Obviously, Cole Williams. So I don't even think he's pitted yet. Actually, no, he has pitted. He's been 2 laps since pit road, so at least he's on the strategy to run for a top 3, maybe top 5. If he stays with that very wounded race car, it will be a very respectful run for that number 82. At least back to what I was saying, though. Obviously, this track, endurance racing, and I know you and I are looking forward to January, at least late January. Not sure the exact date because iRacing has yet to really release that. I believe they're going for that within the next 2 weeks, I think, for release dates on that sort of stretch. But at least for Daytona 24, prestigious race, looking forward to that. Obviously, the different types of cars you have now. We have brand new cars there on the racetrack. This next year, Charlie. We're gonna have the Dallara P217 join the mix. We're gonna have the Corvette C8R GTE, which we haven't seen, obviously mixed in with the cars we still have. And I think maybe even in this next build, when coming to the next season, in I believe next week or in just a little bit of time when the next build comes out, we'll probably have even more. I think they've been hinting at a Lamborghini GT3, so that might also join the conversation.
Yeah, and I'm excited for Daytona, mainly because I mean we put together a pretty good team, you and I, Kenneth, and that team just happens to be all of the top 3 plus Aiden Kirker.
Yeah, Aiden Kirker going to be there.
Maybe Parker White, Blaze McKinney, and Cole Williams, 3 really, really good road racers.
Yeah,
I'm really happy to bring them on for that race.
Yeah, of course, I know as a team owner, and as both of us, we've worked together. Obviously, it feels good having those drivers because it gives you a shot, gives you a little bit of kind of excitedness. I'd say I probably would have made up a term just right now, but I guess I'm not going to, but at least with that, it's going to be very exciting. And it gives you a little more confidence, gives you a little feel-good attitude heading in kind of maybe a rocky situation, kind of be prepping up for that big race. That's going to be a lot of fun, obviously. Great thing about iRacing, you can join those events, have a lot of fun with even friends like Charlie and I, and obviously we know a couple of these guys in this series, and we've talked well enough with a lot of these drivers in this series. They're all great guys, and obviously I know a lot of them are probably planning on that Rolex 24 in a couple of months' time. So right now, your top 5 stands with 7 laps to go. Look at Patterson going straight over the turtles there. Might have to drop some time due to cutting the course. But Parker White is currently your race leader. Blaze McKinney currently sitting in second, about 4.9, about 5 seconds behind now as he's just entering and exiting turn number 1. Josh Patterson sitting in that podium spot is now being challenged by Nick Miller in the number 9. For 4th, Aiden Kirker now holding on to this top 5. Sartaj Maan, who was up in the podium spot, has a little more damage to his car. He's holding on for 6th. Corey Hart's for 7th. Aaron Morgan 8th. Shane DiMantova, Flying Arrows member, in 9th. Brady Weileman still holding on with P10.
Good run for Brady.
Yeah, very good run for Brady. I think this might be the best run in the Bundren Lawn Care Series for him, at least in recent memory, which will actually give him a little bit of boost. I know he's won the Dega Race LWC NASCAR Cup Series. He went for one of the championship. He was a part of the championship 4. Unfortunately, did not grab the trophy, but did put up a valiant effort. Worth noting, all the way as he battled with Josh Duke for that final spot a couple of weeks ago. And obviously, just this past Saturday, was able to get 4th in the standings. Obviously, very good. That will also be a feel-good story for Brady in order to capture a top 5. Would also be feel good for Corey Hartz, who has really yet to capture top 5 in this series yet. Obviously, top 10 would work very well for him. Shane DiMantova, who I believe hasn't gone back to a podium spot since Iowa, or at least actually no, since his win at Talladega. But if it didn't come to the race win, it was 3rd at Iowa, where we actually interviewed him just after that race. So maybe some stories to memorize here, and maybe even a story all the way up front with Parker White. Just 6 laps to go from his first ever Bundren Lawn Care Series victory.
Yeah, he's just got a couple more laps to really kind of take it easy here. He's put up a really big gap. Largest all race, I believe, on Blaze McKinney, just 5.5 seconds behind. So he's sitting really comfortably right now, but he still has to focus on not making any mistakes. Because, well, unlike really any other kind of racing on the iRacing service, road racing is probably where the mistakes are exaggerated the most because there's no cautions, and you really have to run a near perfect race in order to take a win. That's what Parker White has done so far. 0 incident points for that number 95, and he has put up a dominating performance here tonight, and just hoping to hang on for 6 more laps.
I mean, credit where credit's given. You know, obviously, I believe top. I'd say probably maybe 2. They've yet to have incident points, or maybe even dramatic incident points. Maybe maybe an off track, maybe a 1X, but that usually isn't probably the most exaggerated. I think mostly it usually happens when you make a mistake with the braking zone and you overshoot a corner, or if you lock up the brakes, you end up spinning somewhere. You're trying your best to exit a corner, something happens, all of a sudden your car goes wonky and your car can easily go around. That's usually where it gets exacerbated, but obviously, one tracks, those little kind of snips through the grass, which you usually see, especially on the iRacing service, through that backstretch chicane that you just saw. That's usually where they can rack those points. But credit where credit's due. Parker White, Blaze McKinney, guys like Patterson, Miller, all those drivers have yet to really have very significant incidents that have put them, or at least maybe given them damage, which is very great to see that these drivers have been so skilled and been keeping themselves clean. Obviously, some drivers not with the same fate, but just 5 laps to go until we get crowned a winner. Obviously, we're not looking for any yellows anytime soon. Charlie, you might have seen something on the track.
Shane DiMantova from the 9th position did miss the backstretch chicane. Or not miss, he just got loose off of it. But also, on the same lap, Cole Williams was working on gaining a lot of position, but in the International Horseshoe, he did go off and sustained a bit of damage, and he's pretty much crab walking around the racetrack.
You see him there, currently sitting 15th. He was up to the top 10 and you now see him just trying to hang on as Aaron Tribble just went around in the outside wall. Oh, don't stay out of the way of everybody else, and indeed he does. Cole Williams will find his way down to pit road. I think Williams' day might just be over, at least in hopes of grabbing a top 10 from all of this madness. Very unfortunate from his run especially. Now top 3 have been separated by about, I'd say 5 seconds, 4 or 5 seconds or so, as Patterson may be still under pressure from Nick Miller.
Yeah, Josh has really put together a really solid second half of this race, and currently gaining on Blaze McKinney. Blaze has fallen off quite a bit, and that's allowed Josh Patterson to make up some time. I'm not sure if he'll have enough time to try and make a move on him by the end of this race, but he's certainly putting together a fantastic second half of this race and is looking for another really, really good finish. Loose off of the final chicane.
I mean, that's something we usually see with Patterson, don't we? We always see Patterson loose off the track. I think for him, loose is definitely fast. I think if he's swinging around the racetrack, then he knows he's comfortable with his car. If he's not swinging around, if his car is stable, he's probably wondering what the hell is going on in the race car. But at least he's still holding on position, just trying to get to the turtle. You see him completely slamming the turtles. We saw him did that a little earlier in this race, but it certainly hasn't hurt him as much. He has a little bit of damage, but it's not really enough to affect him as much. I think P3, certainly valiant effort, certainly will be nothing to complain about out, but we have just gotten 4 laps to go from the Daytona International Speedway and the road course configuration. On the NASCAR side of things, it's been all Parker White. He's led pretty much most of this race, apart from that little swap through with Nick Miller and that also second swap through under green flag cycles. But other than that, if you're talking about just straight green flag racing, without the pit stops, Parker White has been the man up front, and he's never conceded that lead since. Blaze McKinney has looked very promising for the race lead. He's looked like he was able to catch that 95 in some instances, but over the course of these longer runs, it has not been possible. That 87 has been able to match within at least 1 second or so, but ever since then, after that, he's been falling back, and obviously with this recent strategy, he's fallen back about 7 seconds behind the race leader.
And Josh continues to reel in that number 87 of Blaze McKinney. Again, I'm not sure if it's going to be enough to catch him before this race is over, but he's certainly putting up that effort. But Nick Miller is still not too far behind.
Yeah, Miller's still on the pounce, but look is also in this group as well. It's kind of a 3-car train. Aiden Kirker has been looking. I know he's not necessarily close enough to make some sort of move. He's not within striking distance yet, but there's still a lot of time left in this race. There's still about 4 and 3.5 laps to go left until we get to the finish. So should these two tangle, should Nick Miller get up, and if they make a mistake, both of them, which we've already seen with other drivers tonight, and number 39 could look for a 3rd place position. And now it's awfully getting tight between Miller and Patterson. This is some of the closest we've seen them together, especially within this final run, as we've gotten 3 laps to go at the line. Miller is going to try to hang on and get for 3rd as Patterson defends that position into turn 1.
Yeah, we'll see. I kind of, in the back of my head, I kind of expected this to kind of happen because Josh was, just by observation, he was never lifted off the throttle when that back end stepped out off the corner, and that really, really does take a toll on your rear tires, and that'll cause a lot of fall off. So, you know, he has kind of fallen off with Blaze McKinney's pace as well. So Nick Miller will look to the inside. Josh cuts him off.
He's trying to get there, but he is there. He's letting him know. He's letting that number 81 know that he is there and that he's willing to take that spot should Patterson mess up any of these corners. So it's kind of giving you some pressure, at least on tracks like these, Charlie. It's way different from the ovals, where at least in the oval sense, you could kind of give him a tap. Maybe at the short tracks, you can give him a little bump, move him out of the way, give him a little bump and run. But on the 1.5 milers, you're either going to be stuck behind, or you're just going to end up finding that opening at some point. But when you go to road courses, you're right behind somebody, you're putting the pressure. It's a lot tougher, especially if you're the defending driver, because you see the drivers right behind you, you see him right on your tail, you see him eager to get any sort of position, you see him eager to get that spot away from you, and that puts pressure on you to perform better in each and every one of those corners. So you could easily force yourself a little bit too much, you can overestimate a corner, underestimate a corner, and all of a sudden you lose that spot. It's a lot of mind games with these drivers out here tonight, as Parker White has gone by the line for 2 laps to go from Daytona.
Yeah, John Parker has to be feeling really, really good about himself. He's put together a perfect run with a clean race car. I don't see a single scratch in that race car. He's done a fantastic job. Same with, second place runner Blaze McKinney, but it really just comes down to the practice and the experience that you have.
You see battle for third still brewing up. Seems as though the battle for the lead seems to be uncontested, but third and fourth is looking awfully competitive, as Miller fell back a little bit, but might be charging up for a larger run. And you see Blaze McKinney there, just in the distance. He's not too far off, and you did mention, Charlie, that he was slowly catching up, and that indeed is the case. You could just look at the naked eye and just see that he's already there, and that 87 is within distance at least somewhat when you see him on the racetrack. Obviously, maybe not enough to catch up to that 87 in this amount of time with 2 laps to go, but at least it's good enough to see that he could have had him at least at some point for second, as he continues to defend for the podium spot in third. And White looking on the backstretch chicane. What a night it's been for Parker White to hold on for each and every lap, to be dominant for this amount of time after being so close to so many different types of wins on different types of tracks. Now has that opportunity to get that first victory and start maybe a momentum train for that 95 to go for a title, where he was in position for just last season. Onto the front stretch chicane, and he's going to approach off that corner the white flag here from Daytona. He's going to go to the tri-oval one more time around for Parker White.
And it's been a long time coming for that 95 car. Parker White. From observation, Parker has probably been had probably some of the most heartbreaking stories in iRacing. Oh my goodness, is that Blaze McKinney slow?
That is Blaze McKinney. He fell back all the way to 8th. I was going to look for second, going to find where he was. Did he just run out of fuel? I believe he might have run out of fuel on the final lap. He was slow even before the backstretch chicane. I think McKinney is out. And indeed he is. His engine is sputtering. His engine seems to be done.
Wow.
McKinney will lose to second. Patterson will move up 1 spot. Miller will hold for podium. And where will McKinney finish? He's already down to 13th.
And back to what I was saying, it's been a very long time coming for Parker White. And like I said, he's had some of the most heartbreaking stories. He lost last season's championship from the championship lead as Aaron Maroney got into his back bumper. And there's been a lot of debate on whether or not that's been intentional or accidental, but there's been a long-lasting rivalry between them. The LWRC NASCAR Cup Series race finale, where he was in the championship lead with just 2 laps to go, and a caution came out. But finally, just 2 more corners to go for Parker White to get his first Bundren Lawn Care Series win.
Gonna nail every single time he's nailed every single corner from here on out through this final lap, and almost every other lap since the drop of the green flag, down to the final chicane on the front stretch for the final time. Gonna smack the curbs and get off. Parker White will be a winner finally in the Bundren Lawn Care Series from Daytona Road Course. His first win in this series history. Finally, it has come. A win for McGrath Simsport and a win for that number 95 after so many close calls from Charlotte, Chicago, Vegas, Phoenix. Now Daytona Road Course add that to his first win. We've had 4 different winners in this season. I think this one was finally overdue. As he's celebrating, there's Parker Collins to celebrate. McKinney, though, in all of this madness, will most likely finish 17th, just short of the finish line. Look at that distance between himself and the start-finish line. Was rolling, crawling all the way.
And Parker's going to burn it down in the infield road course section.
And there he is, Parker White, your winner, burning it down, not on the front stretch, but right in the middle of the course. Francisco Bacalhau to celebrate with him. Boy, Charlie, we were expecting to see this a lot earlier than it actually happened. We were expecting this in Season 2. But it's finally come to Season 3, early in the season in race number 4 for Parker White to grab the victory. You see him now just strolling along to the banking, probably going to find his way over to the start-finish line where he can celebrate in front of all the fans, and all the virtual fans are right to the start-finish line, right in front of that Daytona logo in the grass. Or at least that's fitting in the grass with the Bundren sponsorship. Can't imagine what the emotions are behind the wheel of that 95. Patterson will be second. Miller will be third. Kirker will be fourth. McKinney, I don't even think it's still done for him just yet, as he finishes 20th. He's getting a push from Shane DiMantova across the line from 2nd to 20th in the final lap. Heartbreaking end, as the 87 is now going to just park it. Try to get his way around. There's Parker White. There's some of his friends there, Aiden Kirker, to go along with him. Going to immediately make his stroll to victory lane as we conclude our race. There he is, spinning right in front of the grass, Bundren style, fitting with the sponsorship on the hood. A winner in the Bundren Lawn Care Series, finally. And we'll take a look at your official race results live here on the KBueno Racing Network from the Daytona Road Course. Parker White, of course, already mentioned it a handful of times, is finally a winner. He takes over the win over 14 seconds to Josh Patterson, who scrambles for second after what a valiant effort by him. Nick Miller will be in that podium spot in third. Aiden Kirker will finish in fourth. Sartaj Maan, after that strong run, will finish in the top 5. Corey Hart's, another strong one for him, will finish in 6th. Aaron Mulrooney 7th. Brady Walleman finishes in this top 10, so great to see him finishing in the top 10. Shane Demantova 9th. PJ Merrill, after that strategy halfway through the race, will finish in 10th.
Right outside the top 10, William Schmidt with kind of a rebound. He was running just inside the top 20 and was able to rebound to 11th place. Jonathan T. Jones, 12th. Brandon, you're going to have to correct me on this last name, Paunetto.
Yeah, you got it.
All right. He finishes 13th. Aaron Tribble, 14th. J.J. Hill rebounds to 15th. Bridger Olsen, Daytona Oval winner. First car lap down in 16th. Ezekiel Reyes, highest car owner, in 17th. Mitch Hobbs in 18th. Riley Marabello for 19th position. And Blaze McKinney runs out of fuel on the final lap from the second position. He finishes 20th.
What a heartbreaking run for McKinney. Was second all race and lost all the gas on the final lap. Josh Duke finishes 21st. Parker Collins 22nd. Francisco Bacalhau will finish with a wounded race car in 23rd. Cole Williams also with a wounded race car within that top 15 before falling across the line 24th. Marshall Ryder in his first debut race will finish 25th. Kevin White Jr. 26th. 27th belongs to number 5, Henry Tabor. Cole Woody 28th. Gabriel Edwards in his first start as well will come home 29th. And Joseph Costello, running with just the pedals on his wheel for accelerator and the brake, will finish 19 laps down in 30th.
And the 31st spot, Glenn Bundren, another heartbreaking run, finishes 31st. Zach Miracle, 32nd. Jackson Menchie, 33rd. Aiden B. Murray, 34th. Robert Nacco, or Joe Nacco, 35th. Max Urich, 36th. Keelan Belcher, 37th. Colton Zimmer, starting to get the guys that didn't even start the race. 38th. Peter Kenny, 39th. Latham Joyner, 40th.
These are the final 3 drivers. Chase Rogers, 41st. Kadarius Tave, 42nd. Mark Love, 43rd. I don't think Kadarius or Love even started this race. I remember Chase Rogers did find his way onto the grid. He started this race, but the other 2 did not find their way. So that is your entire 43-car field from Daytona. We'll take a short break, and once we come back, we'll have our KBRN post-race coverage brought to you by SDC. We'll have interviews with the top 5, and of course an interview in victory lane with your winner, Parker White. We'll have more recaps going into the rest of the season forward. Stay tuned. We've got more coming next on the KBueno Racing Network. Welcome back to the Daytona International Speedway Road Course, and of course, welcome to our KBRN post-race coverage, brought to you by SDC. It was 38 laps to conclude this one for the 4th race of the Season 3 campaign, the Bundren Lawn Care Series. We finally have another first-time winner in Parker White, who takes the win over everyone else here from Daytona after a practically perfect race. And we're going to bring him in and see his thoughts out in a victory lane as Parker White celebrates and with all of his friends and practically everybody after a long overdue win. Parker, I think this win has overdue its day. It's been a long time, and it felt like there were so many times where you had the shot. You were right there in the moment to capture a win in this series. You come here at the Daytona Road Course, you have an absolute perfect race, and you finally win a race in the Bundren Lawn Care Series. Give us your thoughts on what this means to you after so long coming.
Yeah, it means a lot to me. I remember last season, I was like, if I go winless this season, I really hope the Daytona Road Course is on the schedule next year. And with it being so early in the season, this is definitely going to give you some momentum going through the rest of the season and through the playoffs. Just judging if we're going to make the playoffs, I'm pretty sure we will. And like I said, it just means so much after going winless last season and having a shot at the title. And I had a shot to win those Phoenix races, but it just didn't really play out for me at the end. And for this race, I just tried to play it how I kind of would any race, but the way with the competition yellow kind of interfered with my strategy, because I was just going to try to go like 10, just like run 10 laps at a time. So I remember coming to the comp yellow, I came in and I had such a big gap to the guy behind me. I think it was actually Blaze. I was the only car that was able to get on pit road before the yellow came out. So that automatically cycled me right back to the lead. I think I would have been in the lead anyway, but I had a friend that was on the same strategy as me and he pitted the lap before. So that kind of worked out for me. So it got me out front there after the comp yellow. And then right from there, I planned on pitting with 10 to go right after the comp yellow. So I came in with 10 to go, Blaze followed me, and then the car was just a rocket right from there. I thought Blaze would have a little bit of speed on the short run, because I remember earlier in the race, he actually, I was hearing that he put it in the tire barrier. Then he was starting to catch me again. I was like, wait, that's kind of weird. So we were equal on tires there, and I just tried to kind of push the car, but also try to save a little. And we did that perfectly, and just really happy to get this win here today.
And talk about this dominating run from you all the way to the finish. You practically led every single lap, apart from, I'd say, 5, and pretty much those other 5 were because of the green flag cycle where you had to go down before, and then obviously the drivers who stayed out led the lap there. But other than that, you led every single lap. You were dominating by a large margin in most cases. What seems to be the best part of this track, or what seems to be part of this track that really helps your case out and what has made you so fast at a venue like this?
Well, I remember when I first got iRacing, I was like, because this was back a year ago, so NASCAR had no intent on going to the Daytona Road Course. And I've been playing around with Cup cars on the road course for like such a long time. And that definitely had a factor here, because I just had the track down. And I remember when the NASCAR iRacing Series went back here in, I think it was August, I'm pretty sure. I remember they added the front chicane, and I wasn't really that happy about it. But now that I've gotten to learn the track a lot better, I remember Nick Miller was actually saying that that's where I pulled the field, was going through that front chicane. So that kind of played my my strategy, I guess. I don't know. Because I think I pulled like 5/10 on Blaze almost like 5 laps in a row there. And unfortunately, he blew his motor, I think, at the end there. So that's kind of how I tried to play the race out.
Well, you played it perfectly, and now, Parker, you can finally say that you are a winner in the Bundren Lawn Care Series. I remember every single race when it would end in heartbreak. I remember the post recap there on Instagram where you would feel obviously about that race, and obviously deservingly frustrated about a lot of the finishes. But now I think you can finally celebrate here at Daytona, and you're finally a winner. Parker, before we let you go to celebrate this illustrious victory, which people do you have to thank? Any team sponsors or really anyone else you decide to give the love to on this victory, first time in the Bundren Lawn Care Series?
Yeah, I've got to give a huge shout out to my team, McGrath Sim Sport. They gave me a lightning fast car here today. Couldn't have done it without them, and my sponsors. I've got to thank Bundren Lawn Care and Elo Media.
Parker, well, we wish you congratulations on your victory here at Daytona. Obviously, we'll let you go celebrate. We'll let you go do whatever you need to do here at Daytona. I know there's probably a lot of stuff out on the track that you can go do, so to celebrate. So, again, congratulations, and we look forward to seeing you through the rest of this season.
All right, thank you, Ken.
Parker White out of the booth. He is the winner, finally in a season. His first time in the Bundren Lawn Care Series. Slid back to second where it would have been Blaze McKinney. But now, because of that pitch strategy, it becomes Josh Patterson, the number 81. He is trackside with Charlie Baier.
Hey, Josh, you got a copy?
Yeah, man, I got you.
Well, Josh, an absolute charge to the front here. You definitely earned the Hard Charger Award. 30th to 2nd in that run. And just talk about how you were able to charge all the way up and gain 28 spots from the drop of the green.
Well, I'm going to be honest. I joined, I thought it was the Oval Daytona. So I kind of loaded into the session midway through qualifying. And it was not the Oval. So I didn't have a chance to qualify. So I ended up starting 30th. Sent it through the middle in turn 1, gained 7 spots before turn 1. So I was up to like 23rd, and then I ended up getting to like 14th by the end of the first lap. So, and by the time I was that far up, I was just thinking, all right, conserve the tires, try to hold out for a little bit, just to try to, save my stuff and let everyone else mess up. By the end of the first round, I think I was up to 7th, and I pit a lap early, got me another spot. Then I was battling with Corey Hartz for most of the next little run there before the Comp Yellow. And then Comp Yellow got me to 5th, I think. And then I got caught up with a little battle with PJ Merrill, and he kind of dumped himself trying to force it in on me. But, it's all good. And then the rest of it was just, me trying to save my stuff and pass Sartaj. And he was doing a really good job holding me up for a while there. And then I ended up punting him out of the way, which I don't think you all caught on stream, but yeah, still fun nonetheless. And then the final little stint was just me holding off Nick. And then I don't know how Blaze blew up, but that's what got me to 2nd. So I came into this race with no expectations of doing anything well. I end up with the 2nd place. That's more than I could have asked for.
And obviously, jumping in with no practice, you know your way around this track, obviously. Climbing all the way up to a 2nd place finish. What really about this track suits you the most on iRacing?
Well, it's not really this track. I'm more of just a road racer. I've got a 2.5K road iron, which isn't amazing, but it's a lot better than most of the other guys here, I think. So I do a lot more road racing than oval, and I've been for a little bit. But so I'm more geared to a road course, and yeah, I like turning left and right. Where most of these guys like turning left only, but I guess it just, shows when you have a field that's like that. I'm not trying to put anyone else down or anything. It's just that's the nature of the people in the league. They're more, suited towards ovals. I'm more of a road course guy myself. So, I mean, this track definitely has its own struggles, though. The final chicane, I found out more times than I'd like to admit that it's a little bit hard if you hit the little bumps there. I got on 2 wheels multiple times, so. Yeah, definitely struggles, but I think it just came down to me being able to really work the pedal to get enough good enough exits on Nick and keep ahead of him, and just really was able to save my stuff.
All right, Josh. Well, thanks for coming out here and racing with us. A very, very strong run for you tonight. We hope to see you come up in the next couple of weeks, and so far you're below the cutoff for the playoffs. So we hope to see you in the next couple of weeks racing for a playoff spot. But before we let you go, do you have any teams or anyone that you'd like to thank for making tonight's 2nd place run happen?
Well, I got to thank Nova Sim Racing, even though I was accidentally in the wrong paint tonight because of my graphic design thing. I was accidentally in a customer's car, Tommy Gossett. But so, yeah, check out JP Designs for any graphic design paint scheme needs. Got to thank Belfour, Property Restoration, Endurance Distributions, NTN. I got to thank Paul Granata for being in my ear for a bit of that race. And I got to give a shout out to Parker White. He drove an amazing race. He pretty much dominated from start to end, was flawless. So congrats to him on that win. And I got to give everyone on track a really, really good thanks, really good shout out for, just giving me a really good run and not taking me out. And I got to thank you guys as well for broadcasting it, and Glenn for running the whole league.
All right, Josh, we hope to see you around in the next couple of weeks, and good luck, man.
Yeah, thanks, Charlie.
That was Josh Patterson. Like you said, another road racer in the field tonight, just adding to the list, and had a very, very strong run, charge up to the front.
30th to 2nd. That is definitely hard charging award, and it's obvious matter. There's no way it can go to anyone else. Very, very valiant effort. I think that certainly deserves a lot of respect. We'll slip back to P number 3, where the number 9 of Nick Miller found his way to the last step of the podium. And Nick, a race that really went well for you, especially coming off that victory in the Phoenix doubleheader, where you had a little bit of momentum to your side. You go into this race and you put on a very nice show. You go in this top 5. Obviously, you started 2nd on this grid, and you really didn't fall off. You only lose 1 position since the drop of the green flag to the checkered flag. Just run us through what your race was like and how that race was fighting within this top 5.
Yeah, early in the run when the sun was out, or was barely out, I guess, it was over the the grandstands. After about 6 or 7 laps, we burned the tires, but I was gonna pit with all the leaders, and then I saw them all pit, so like I stayed out into the lap, had an extra lap of fuel, took the lap wet. I think that's a bonus point, so I got that, and then I had to go AFK. I had to do something like right before the caution, so I pitted, fell back to 15th, and then we drove back through the field. And I tried getting Josh, but every time I got close, I felt like when Truex, I guess Glenn, when it was like Truex and Elliott battling for the lead, every time he got close, it would just get super tight on him because of dirty air. That's what it felt like, and I just couldn't get back up to Josh.
And this obviously comes after a very, very strong finish last season in the Charlotte Roval, and you continue your prowess here on these type of Roval type courses. What seems to be the best part about these tracks, and what really about these tracks gives you the most success, at least so far, considering these 2 consistent finishes from last season and this season forward?
Yeah, you just really you don't have to worry about the cautions or some strategy screwing you over. It's just your own pace, and then after like 2 or 3 laps, you're kind of on your own. So you just gotta focus on being consistent, I guess.
All right, Nick, what consistently certainly played to your favor. Last step on the podium, P3 here tonight. Before we let you go, Nick, I know there's a lot of people that get it done for you, obviously team sponsors, anyone else. So which people do you have to thank for tonight's effort?
Proximity Racing. We're working hard here, getting ready for the Pro and the Rolex 24, so shout out to them.
And me, Charlie, and I discussed the Rolex 24. Obviously, that's going to be a lot of fun. We mentioned a lot of drivers are going to find their way into that event. Obviously, you and your team going to be there. Obviously, wishing the best of luck, and of course, congratulations on your P3 effort tonight. We look forward to seeing the rest of the season going for you in that number 9 team. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, see you guys.
That was Nick Miller, your P3 finisher on the last step of the podium. Go back to 4th place, where Media Racing driver Aiden Kirker finishes after some great finishes at Phoenix last week in the doubleheader. He is with Charlie Baier on the track.
Hey, Aiden, got a copy?
I got you.
Well, Aiden started right outside the top 5 and drove right inside the top 5. Just talk about that run you had tonight and really what you had to overcome here.
It was a pretty quiet run today. Early on in the first run, I locked my front tires up and then ended up wheel hopping into the turn 2. So I flat spotted my front tires and almost spun the car out, trying to avoid, I think it was Corey that was in front of me. And then just kind of nursed it back to the stage end. And then after the stage I was able to fight it out for a top 5 spot. I had a lot of fun today, even though it really wasn't the most eventful day. I like road course racing, just racing by itself, just driving the car around the track, even if you're not battling someone at all times or winning the race like that. So I felt like it was a pretty strong day, pretty strong points day as well. Definitely extended our lead over Blaze and Parker. So pretty good day.
Yeah, and you mentioned that points that you're currently sitting 23 points ahead of the next car in points. So that's got to be a relief for you, and picking up all those good finishes, stacking them on each other. Do you agree that's really kind of a relief for you to kind of take it easy for over the next few races?
It's not necessarily a relief. It's just more motivation to go out there and build a bigger lead, or maybe you get a win here soon. But it's definitely nice to see that 39 on the top of the charts, or top of the standings, I should say, in points. So yeah.
All right, and well, thanks for coming on here and racing with us. Enjoy your top 5 finish. Before we let you go, do you have any teams or anyone that you'd like to thank for making tonight's top 5 run to Daytona possible?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Media Racing and everybody over there, and all the sponsors, Appella Gaming, Z's Custom Diecast, and South Energy. always a pleasure to work with those guys.
Alrighty, we'll see you in the next upcoming weeks, but good luck, man.
All right, thank you.
Getting quick out of the booth. He finishes right inside the top 5.
Certainly a great effort after what he put on in the Phoenix doubleheader, especially with those top 5s to his favor. We'll slip back to our final interview of the evening as Sartaj Maan, the proximity racing driver, number 49. And Sartaj, a great race, I think, to cap off what has been a rough and rugged 2 weeks at the Daytona Oval and the Phoenix doubleheader. And you come here at the Daytona Road Course with a head of steam. You go into this top 3. You battle with Nick Miller. Lots of fun watching you battling with those guys. You end up finishing just where you started on the grid. Just walk us through this event specifically and your car as it went throughout the run, especially since it's been so quick tonight.
You know, at the start of the race, like when it was sunset, you know, obviously when the track was warmer, I think I was one of the quicker guys on track. Obviously, Parker was still, you know, miles ahead of everyone. You know, just as the night went on, I feel like I didn't really adapt as well as I wanted to. You know, I couldn't really get used to the track state and all that stuff. Ended up finishing 5th where I think I should have finished, but came into this race just wanting to get points, really. The first 2 weeks were just horrendous for me in general, so just needed some points here.
Certainly those points are going to your favor, and obviously a great finish here in P5. And obviously talking about those first 2 races that they were very rough for you, is this the sign of some sort of turning point, wink wink, for your season in general?
Yeah, it should be a turning point. I mean, first 2 races it's not like I was running bad, it's just bad luck has caught up to me. I think this should be a change in good luck.
Well, Sartaj, you certainly walk away. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's it.
All right. Well, nonetheless, Sartaj, a great fifth place finish for all the guys and your team. Obviously, I know your teammate Nick Miller was up in 3rd place. So before we let you go, obviously, I know Proximity might be one of those teams you want to thank, but anybody else, any sponsors, or really any just other shout-outs you'd just like to make for your effort here tonight at Daytona?
Yeah, I'd like to thank some of the sponsors at Prox, which are Sticker Boost, Trey Shuttlesworth Photography, Rexford Engineering, Graham Cracker, and All Serve Garage Door.
All right, Sartaj, well, congratulations on this P5 finish. We look forward to what you can muster up in the rest of this season turning forward. Hopefully, this is a sign of good things to come for you and your 49 team. We wish you the best of luck, and, of course, congratulations again on P5.
Thank you.
For Sartaj Maan, your 5th place finisher here from Daytona. Good to see him finally on some stretch of good luck, at least since those first 2 weeks. And Charlie, and now we're at our recapping stage where we kind of talk about what has gone on through the rest of this race, and we'll actually give you an extra look over there watching the YouTube channel and watching the YouTube stream of where we're going to be next week. Legacy, Michigan, the old Michigan International Speedway, old great Michigan, which we saw last season, and how much of a race that was on pitch strategy, on the green flag runs, and of course those chaotic final restarts, which gave Jackson Harmon a miraculous, fantastic run to the finish over Blaze McKinney. Charlie, we're going into a race we've already seen before. We know kind of what to expect here, but at least in terms of what we've come off of here right from the Daytona Road Course, what are your takeaways at least to coming here now, and maybe even what we could see coming to the Roval when we go to the playoffs?
I think that we've really distinguished the guys that are really, really good at road racing and who are going to be up front at the Roval. We saw them perform, and I think that there's a lot of big names such as Parker White, Blaze McKinney. All those guys have really established themselves as really threats for the win on these road courses. I can't wait to go for the Roval. Roval's one of my favorite road courses as a driver and as a spectator, so that should be a fun one. But next week, if you remember last season, that was a wild race at Legacy, Michigan, and I'm sure it's just going to be just as wild next week.
It's going to be just as wild as last season, and if you want to catch the madness and all the wildness and everything that's going to go down in Michigan and in the Detroit and the Motor City, we'll have that coverage for you next Monday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, right here live on the KBueno Racing Network. Charlie and I will, of course, as always, be on the call from here next week and through every single race all the way to the championship at Homestead at Miami Speedway. Well, we thank each and every one of you for tuning in to tonight's broadcast, and we hope you certainly had a lot of fun watching these drivers take on 38 laps of the Daytona Road Course. And of course, for everybody that puts this league together, for Glenn and all the admins for putting this league together each and every week, and from behalf of us at the KBueno Racing Network, for Charlie Baier alongside me in the booth, Kenneth Bueno saying good night from the Daytona Road Course. We'll see you in the Motor City next week.